Alright there, YouTube. So, my goal here today is I want to take a look at this old Duramax here. I bought this truck many months ago, and it's got a bit of an engine knock noise. Not really for sure what's going on with it, but fairly clean truck. I bought it for a good price, and I want to kind of get a look at this thing, see if I can figure out what's going on with it. But first, to do that, we're going to need to try to see if we can get this thing fired up so we can get it inside the shop. This truck was parked in the summertime, so it's going to have summer diesel in it, and we've had a pretty good cold spell here at about -20 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll put the conversion down in the screen here, so this fuel's probably gelled up. I don't know if we're even necessarily be able to get this thing started. We might be dragging it inside with the skid steer to get it started up, but I'm gonna go ahead and dump some power service in the tank here. A little bit's good, all of it's better, right? I've got no idea how much fuel's in this tank, but it says it treats up to 100 gallons, so should be plenty. Grab the old Harbor Freight generator here. Oh. Oh. Ah. That's lovely. Alright, so we're gonna let that block heater run for a while, and then we're gonna come back out and see if we can get this thing started up. Alright, so this has been running here for a little while. Got the Toyota on the jumper cables here, because I realized the batteries were stone dead on this thing, which sucks because that means they probably froze. Which means they're probably not any good anymore. Hopefully they're taking some kind of a charge here, but the old generator's been running a while here. Let's go ahead and see if this thing will start up here. So, kind of a pain in the butt to drag in a dead vehicle. So, let's see what happens here. Where is the wait to start light on this thing? I'm not even sure. 383,000 miles. Go ahead and give her a crank, see what happens. Yeah, those batteries aren't really taking any charge here. That sucks. Alright, let's go ahead and put a second set of jumper cables on the old service truck here. Alright, second set of jumper cables are on. See if that's enough to spin this thing over halfway decent. Oh. Alright. Still not sure where the wait to start light is on this truck. Let's try. Is it over on this side? Why am I not seeing a wait to start light anywhere? Alright, let's see if this thing will crank now. Oh, it's actually trying to start here. Alright, so unfortunately, this thing doesn't look like it's going to be any easier to work on than I remember. So, that's going to be fun. Now, these batteries are stone dead. I've got a charger on them, so I got enough to power this thing up. Notice it did have a check engine light, which it did not before. I do remember doing a minor test on this thing here where I unplugged some injectors, so it might be a code just left from that. This thing is transmission control system request. Alright, so the only code that we had was a transmission fault code, which is completely irrelevant to the problem that we're having here. I did clear the code and it didn't come back. So I went ahead and I've removed both the inner fender liners. I think what we're going to do to proceed here is we're going to take all the glow plugs out. We're going to do a compression test on this. Now I've gotten a little bit of conflicting information from the previous owner on this truck. He said when this issue first started, he was unloaded and he was going down a hill and it came and then it went away. He proceeded a little further, it came back. He went to a Chevy dealership to get it looked at. They did a test on the injectors and the fact that it had no codes. They did a test where they cranked the engine with the fuel pump off and checked for compression gases in the return line to determine a stuck open injector, and they didn't find anything. They told him that it had to be an internal mechanical problem, and they wanted to charge him a minimum of $5,000 to open the engine up, take a look at it, and he didn't want to do that, so ultimately I ended up buying the truck from him. Now, a mechanical issue such as bent pushrod or something like that, it's not likely to go away and come back again. That's also an issue that would typically come up under a high boost situation, so I don't know if he's telling me 100% correct information on that. Also, the injector test sounds a little fishy to me. I mean, the theory sounds good, but the fact they wanted to charge him a minimum of $5,000 just to open up the engine and look to even see what the issue is, that sounds fishy to me. So I'm not really for sure what's going on with this engine. I've done some work on these Duramaxes, but I've never got too terribly deep into them, so it's not an engine I'm intimately familiar with. But I think a good place to start with our diagnosis here is we're going to do a compression test. Now the tapping or knocking sound that I'm hearing, it sounds more top end than bottom end to me, and it sounds like it's coming from the left side, so I think we're going to start there. But we're going to pull all 8 glow plugs out. Hopefully none of them are stuck, and we're going to go through and do a compression test on this. Okay, so now with the wire off, I'm going to take a 12 millimeter, and we're going to remove the glow plug. Hopefully I don't snap any of these off. Sometimes they will swell up inside of the head, and when you go to remove them, you snap them off. I really need both hands here. There's one glow plug. Alright, so got the other 3 out here. This one right behind the steering shaft here. Managed to get on it and get it loose. But yeah, I can't slide it out because it hits the steering shaft. So, I don't know, I guess steering shaft has to come out. That seems like a stupid thing. Alright, so yep, disconnect the steering shaft, push this end up, drop it out, and then you can pull your glow plug out. Alright, then the next thing you're going to need here is a diesel specific compression test kit. You're going to need the right glow plug adapter, which looks like this guy right here. More or less matches up to the glow plug. Also, the chart here says this truck was manufactured 5 of 05, but it's an LLY, so it should be this 2001 to 2005. Where did I go here? There we go. Position number 5, number 5 here. So this should be our correct adapter. Come over here, thread this in. Seems to be threading in nice. Should be able to clip our gauge on our adapter, like so. Let's check that one more time. It's actually more like 260, 270, but still pretty low. Alright, so I ran through the compression test twice. This is what I ended up getting for numbers. Number 1 cylinder, 270. We definitely got an issue going on there. Number 5 is a bit low, enough low to cause me a bit of concern as well. The rest of these I'm okay with. I'm not sure what the spec for compression is on a 6.6 LLY, but they're all very close, except we got 2 outliers. We got number 1, that's got to be, without doing the math, that's got to be a 20% difference there. So definitely an issue there. For the type of valve train issue I was suspecting, I'd really expect actually to see a lower number than that. So that's a little bit concerning. Even though it sounds like a top end problem, I would just pull this valve cover off and have a peek, because obviously our issue's on this side of the engine, which it sounded like it was on this side of the engine. I would just go ahead and pull that valve cover and take a peek, but it looks like kind of a pain to get that off. So just to be sure that we're not looking at a bottom end problem, I think I'm going to go ahead and drop the oil and see what the oil looks like and see if I find any clues there. But still got a bunch of snow melting off this truck. Basically a solid puddle of water underneath it. So I think I'm going to leave this thing sit inside overnight. And I'll come back in tomorrow and we'll drop the oil. You guys will see that in just a second here and see what we find. So I've got a oil drain bucket here. Wipe the inside of it out. All the snow's melted off and it's dry under the truck now, so that's nice. So drain plug's clean, but there's no magnet on it, so it doesn't really tell me much. Alright, so not really seeing anything in the drain pan. I'm going to go ahead and cut this filter open, see if we find anything in there. Oh boy. Haven't even gotten to the filter media yet. Well, shoot. Oh yeah. Haven't even cut the filter media off and squeezed it out yet. You can see all kinds of metallic particles all over the filter. Darn it, that's not what I was hoping for. Well, cut some media out of here and squeeze it so you can get a little better look. But oh boy. Yeah, we got problems. Alright, so right here between this bit of information we know we have a mechanical issue on cylinder 1, and we have lots and lots of metal, most likely bearing material, oil filter. From that information we know we're looking at most likely either an engine rebuild or replacement. Now I kind of feel like I got to tell you guys a little bit of the backstory on this truck. Now this truck belonged to a friend of mine. Known the guy for probably going on 15 years now. We've been good friends, and he was using this truck to haul new campers commercially from where they're manufactured out to the dealerships. So that's why this truck's got 380,000 miles on it. Now this had been a really good truck for him, but he had just put a bunch of money into this truck just before this engine problem come up. I mean, like within 2 months before this engine problem came up. Transmission went out, he had the transmission rebuilt, he had the entire front end rebuilt, he had the rear end rebuilt, and had a brand new set of tires put on. About 3 weeks before this problem came up, I'd put a new EGR valve on this truck for him. I test drove this truck myself. It was running perfectly, it was driving perfectly, it was doing everything it's supposed to do. I knew a pretty decent truck. Now the truck's got a pretty clean body on it. It's not perfect. Could be a lot nicer with some really minor repairs, but the truck's overall in really good shape. Basically everything but the engine's been rebuilt within the last 2 months this truck was run. Now my friend was somewhere in Idaho when this engine problem started, and he got it over to a Chevy dealership. And they ran a number of injector tests on it. They did injector cutouts. I did a test I mentioned earlier where they checked for combustion gases through the, I believe the fuel return lines is what he told me. But so they did all that. They said that they had eliminated the injectors as a possibility, which that diagnosis I'm okay with. I hadn't personally rolled out the injectors, but I also don't have the scan tool software to do the injector cutout test and stuff. So I hadn't rolled that out as a possibility yet. So they had said that they felt it was a mechanical issue, and they quoted them $5,000 just to open the engine up, take a look, and tell them what it was. Now I've made this determination with a lot less than $5,000 worth of labor. But at the time that this happening, I was gone in the truck working, and my friend had called me and asked me for advice on what I thought, and I told him, basically, sounds like they got a full shop, they just don't want to touch it to quote you $5,000 for that. It's like, that doesn't sound right, that I don't do that. I told him that if you want to try to get back home, fly in a plane, rent a car, whatever, get back home, you can borrow my pickup. I'll be home this weekend. I'll go through, I'll change the oil on my pickup, check the tires, make sure you're good to go for a 2,000 mile trip. You can take my pickup, get a trailer, go get your truck, bring it back home, figure out what you want to do. He was on the fence whether he wanted to try to fix this truck or buy another truck, whatever. So he ends up coming back to me and he says, well, I still don't know what I want to do. I don't know if I want, but I'm gonna do what you said. I'm gonna go get the truck, get it back home. I'm looking online. I'm looking, at other trucks. We both knew this was a situation. He needed to get back up and running quickly. So, because this is how he's earning his living. So, I told him, hey, look, I don't have time to look at this right now. You can use my truck, go get it, bring it back, take it to another shop, get another opinion, whatever you want to do. Or I told him, if you want, I'm not going to be able to look at it for a long time, but if you want, I'll buy the truck from you, help you out with down payment on another truck, because that's kind of what he was leaning towards doing. And I told him, it's going to be a while till I even look at it, but if I get into it and I find it's a minor issue and I'm able to fix it cheaply, I can't be into this truck more than it's worth, so I got to give you a price where I can afford to replace the engine, not be upside down on it. But I told him if it turns out to be a relatively minor issue and you buy another truck and down the road I figure out it's a minor issue, I fix it cheap, I'll give you an extra couple grand on it, So he said, fair enough, I'll let you know what I decide to do. He calls me back a couple days later and he goes, I think I found a truck, I think I want to do that, I'll sell you the truck and I'm going to use that money, put a down payment on this other one, get back up and running. So he did that, and now here it is, probably at least 6 months later, I'm actually looking at this. And this is my problem with what the Chevy dealership did down there in Idaho. They ran their injector test. They said that they had eliminated the injectors. That's fine. They charged them $300-400 for that. But the $5,000 to even look into it further to find a mechanical issue, that's just outrageous. I've got way less than $5,000 worth in labor into what I've done here so far, and I know that I've got a major mechanical bearing issue. I've got a mechanical issue on at least one, if not two cylinders, and I know that I'm looking at either an engine rebuild or replacement. They easily could have charged them a couple $100 to run the compression test. From that is what led me to check the oil filter. They could have done that for $200 worth in labor, and that's just wrong in my opinion. Now, knowing what we know now, I'm sure his course wouldn't have changed from what happened, from what he did, but it is what it is. We're looking at an engine in this truck, and it's going to take me at least a couple days. I want to figure out what parts cost to rebuild this. I really don't want to spend the time commitment to rebuild this engine, but I'm going to price out what I think we're looking at for parts, and I'm going to price out some used engines, see what's out there for used engines. If every engine that's available is 250,000 miles, we'll probably rebuild this one, or buy a remanufactured long block, or do something like that. But it's going to take me a few days to figure out what the next step's going to be going forward, so we're going to end this video off here. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe down below. Thank you. Have a great day.